September 20th, 2015. A 32-year-old CEO did something so audacious, so brazenly cruel, that he became the most hated man in America overnight. He raised the price of a life-saving drug by 5,000% and smiled while doing it. But here's what nobody talks about. Before the world knew his name, Martin Shkreli was already running one of the most elaborate fraud schemes in pharmaceutical history. And for years, he got away with it. This is the story of how a hedge fund manager became Pharma Bro, how his arrogance led to his downfall, and why he thought he was untouchable. Before we dive in, drop a comment and let us know where you're watching from. If you enjoy true crime stories like this, be sure to like the video and subscribe. Martin Shkreli wasn't born rich. He grew up in Brooklyn, the son of Albanian and Croatian immigrants who worked as janitors. He was awkward, nerdy, and obsessed with proving he was the smartest person in the room. By 17, he was already working at a hedge fund. By 23, he'd started his own. His first company, Elea Capital, focused on betting against biotech stocks. Basically, he'd research pharmaceutical companies, find their weaknesses, and short their stocks, profiting when they failed. He was good at it, really good. But Martin had a problem. He wasn't just aggressive with investments, he was reckless with other people's money. In 2009, Elea Capital collapsed. Investors lost millions. And here's where the fraud begins. Instead of admitting failure, Martin started a second hedge fund called MSMB Capital. And this is where things get dark. He lied to investors about his track record. He told them he'd been successful when he'd actually lost almost everything. He fabricated performance reports. He promised returns he couldn't deliver. And when investors started asking questions, Martin did something insane. He started a pharmaceutical company called Retrofin in 2011, took it public and used its funds, money that belonged to shareholders, to secretly pay back the investors he'd defrauded at his hedge fund. Think about that. He was using Company B's money to cover up the fraud he committed at Company A. It's like robbing one bank to pay back another, except he was doing it in plain sight, hiding behind complex financial structures and legal jargon. And for a while, it worked. Nobody noticed. Martin Shkreli was climbing. He was being featured in Forbes. He was speaking at conferences. He was the boy genius of biotech. But behind the scenes, Martin wasn't just a fraudster. He was a narcissist who genuinely believed the rules didn't apply to him. In 2015, he founded Turing Pharmaceuticals and acquired the rights to a drug called Daraprim. Now, Daraprim isn't some luxury medication. It's a life-saving treatment for toxoplasmosis, a parasitic infection that's especially dangerous for people with weakened immune systems, AIDS patients, cancer patients, pregnant women. The drug had been around since the 1950s. It cost $13.50 per pill. Martin raised the price to $750 overnight. That's a 5,000% increase. And when the backlash came, when patients couldn't afford their medication, when doctors were begging him to reconsider, when the media tore him apart, Martin didn't apologize. He went on Twitter, he went on TV, he smirked, he laughed, he called critics morons. He said he wished he'd raised the price higher. He live-streamed himself playing video games while the world burned with rage. He bought the only copy of a Wu-Tang Clan album for $2 million just because he could. He wasn't just a villain, he was trolling the entire country. But here's what Martin didn't realize. All that attention, it put a target on his back. The FBI had already been quietly investigating him for the Retrofin fraud. They'd been building a case for years, but now with Martin on every news channel, with Congress calling him to testify, with the public demanding justice, the pressure to take him down intensified. Martin thought he was untouchable because technically, his investors at the hedge fund had made money in the end. He thought that because he'd paid them back, even if it was with stolen money, there was no crime. He was wrong. On December 17, 2015, federal agents arrested Martin Shkreli at his Manhattan apartment. The charges? Securities fraud and conspiracy. The case wasn't about Daraprim. It was about the lies he told investors, the fake documents, the illegal use of retrofins money to cover his tracks. The prosecution painted a picture of a con man who'd been running a Ponzi-like scheme for years. And Martin, he still thought he'd win. He live-streamed during the trial. He mocked prosecutors. He gave interviews where he acted like the whole thing was a joke. But in August 2017, the jury came back with a verdict. Guilty on 3 counts, including securities fraud. The judge sentenced him to 7 years in federal prison. Martin cried in court. He begged for leniency. He said he'd learned his lesson. Too late. In 2022, he was also hit with a lifetime ban from the pharmaceutical industry and ordered to pay $64.6 million for the Daraprim price hike. The boy genius who thought he could outsmart everyone had lost everything. Martin Shkreli was released from prison in May 2022 after serving most of his sentence. And you'd think he'd learned something, right? That he'd come out humbled, apologetic, ready to rebuild his life quietly. Nope. Within months, he was back online, streaming, tweeting, launching a new company, this time in software, since he's banned from pharma. He's been giving interviews, writing blog posts, even hinting at political ambitions. He still insists he did nothing wrong. He still believes he was unfairly targeted because the public hated him for Daraprim, not because he actually committed fraud. And here's the thing, Martin Shkreli represents something bigger than just one fraudster. He's the embodiment of a system where brilliant people believe their intelligence exempts them from consequences, where arrogance becomes a shield, where the line between confidence and sociopathy blurs. His story isn't just about a drug price or a fraud scheme. It's about what happens when someone smart enough to game the system becomes drunk on their own cleverness and forgets that eventually the system fights back. Martin Shkreli wanted to be remembered as a misunderstood genius. Instead, he'll forever be Pharma Bro, the man who put a price on human life and smiled while doing it. The most hated man in America who proved that sometimes the villain really does lose. If you want more stories about the biggest frauds, scams, and cons in history, hit that subscribe button.